wrong tape.
Where the hell were we?
What the heck were we talking about? Oh, thank you, Ronald. I know what we're talking about. We were talking about the architects of rock and roll being Southern. And
Yeah. Well, I was just, they were just, I think that from a more of a homespun situation, that was probably the place where they could, musical roots started coming out. I mean, I remember, and then once a few people made it out, the impact it had, I'll never forget seeing, I think it was Loving You, or one of those albums where Elvis had on the brightest purple shirt on the cover. And I think at that point, more than any other point, I said, I want to wear one of those shirts. I don't care what it takes to get it, but I mean, it was bold. You know, and I think the people that came out, it was the only way of expressing a bit of rebellion was to go play music and not grow up to be. You know, I wrote a song called "We Are the People Our Parents Warned Us About." And I think that you always at that point, 19, you'll do anything. And if it's a tendency to rebel a little bit against authority, then music was the way to do it in the South.
Were you an Elvis fan other than of his purple shirt?
Oh yeah, in the early days. After he got out of the Army, I wasn't so keen on him. But in the early days, boy, the Army did what he was too much of a threat to the youth of America. So they put him in the Army. When he came out, you notice when the music changes a little to me is after he comes out of the Army.
What about the music that came out of Muscle Shoals and that whole area? Were you at all influenced by that? Or?
I ran into people that I worked with. Norbert Putnam produced me for a while, and David Briggs, and these were the guys who were on the initial sessions that they did in Muscle Shoals. That's always an intriguing thing, and I've worked in there and done albums there, and being from South Alabama, Muscle Shoals being in North Alabama, I never had much contact, because you have to realize where I grew up, everything moved east and west to New Orleans, and Muscle Shoals is only 90 miles from Nashville. But again, it's on it seems the music seems to grow around water. If it's not on the coast, the Muscle Shoals has got the river there, and then in Memphis and in New Orleans, there's something about water and music, and that's about the only thing I can see a correlation there. But great musicians came out of there because I just happen to think it's something as simple as knowing some of the people that I know from there. They just happened to be that good and in that place, and it was naturally going to come out. It could have come out of Peanut, Alabama, but they just happened to be living in Muscle Shoals. And I think you find pockets of that in Macon with Otis Redding and all those guys that came out of Macon at that time. It just happens that suddenly there's a conglomeration or a combination of people that work. And eventually a lot of the people from Muscle Shoals, people don't know that, migrated to Nashville. And a lot of the people that are heads of studios in Nashville and country music started out as R&B players in Muscle Shoals.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Billy Sherrill was a horn player in Muscle Shoals. Yeah, ask him about that if you go down there.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see that, and I just, and there was another great rhythm section that came out there called the Dixie Flyers that Jerry Wexler put together, and then went to Miami, and I'm fortunate to be working with one of the original guys, Michael Utley, in that group, and Sam Creason, and they did all the Atlantic stuff when Jerry Wexler moved to Miami. So I think it's more people with a little bit of insight, or somebody gets a great group of musicians together. A lot of the people that say are the Memphis Sound, a lot of them came from Arkansas because it was the only close point where they could come and combine. And I think we were just lucky and still are to have an immense amount of talent. And just when some of that talent gets together in a ball, it starts to roll.
When you're doing an album, how important is it to you to have creative input from people around you? Do you like to try to create a family and create music out of that, or is it your vision? Or
yeah, I think it's very essential. What I try to do when I go in is to try to be reflective of an onstage performance. I mean, I make my records for my fans, and with that, I use the people in my band. I've got great players in my band from other old bands. Timothy Schmitz in my band now from the Eagles, and Sam Clayton from Little Feat, and they're great players. So when you have great players, it's a great team, and you definitely listen to the influences. I tend to write more of the lyrics, but I listen because Michael Utley sort of is the spiritual leader of this band, and it's great. You can't have great talent and not use it. If you do, you're very stupid. So, I mean, it's a collaboration. It's more of a benevolent dictatorship. you know. But I let things flow, and then until it's time to make a decision. If you get in, that's why I like being in charge. I mean, if I was a fourth of a four-member band, that's why most bands break up, because somebody wants to be in charge and should be. So that's the way it works. We let the ideas flow, and we do a lot of. We go out and we'll play. This next album we're going in to do, we're going back down to Montserrat or to the Bahamas to do it. But I like to go out and take the band and play bars on different islands, little small bars, again going back to my bar theory. And then we'll work on new songs in a small live situation before we take them into the studio. Because that's where they grow, and that's where they gel.
Why is Montserrat and Compass Point, why are they so popular for recording, other than the obvious?
For me, that was it. I mean, we were the first American band to go to Montserrat.
Really?
Yeah, I went there right after the Blues Image was in, and George had, actually the studio wasn't finished when I went in. We did an album called Volcano down there. And for me, I was living on St. Bart's, and so it was a 45-minute commute. I was happy as a clam. I'd been in England the summer before when they were making plans to open the studio in Montserrat. I was working at the Air Studios in London. And I said, sure, come on down, because to me, I thought it would be great being a Caribbean person and where my influences come. I thought it'd be great to be able to go to the Caribbean and utilize the influences there and run right into the studio and do them. So, and other than that, I mean, it is 85 degrees all the time. You know, why make an album? You can always mix in New York, but why have to record there? You know, so that's sort of my theory to it, and it really makes it makes more, like we said before, recording is a reflection of everything. So I mean, if everybody's having a good time and sort of kick back, you get real great performances out of people down there when they're relaxed.
What was it like, changing the subject just real quickly, what was it like working with Roy Orbison?
It was very interesting. One of my writing partners is Will Jennings, was working with Roy at the time, and I never met Roy Orbison, and boy, he was a hero of mine. I always wanted to do Blue Bayou. When I heard Linda's version, I went, damn. And I was just getting ready to go in the studio with that. But, and Fred Neal, who's a great old writer from Coconut Grove, wrote, God, I can't even think. I'll name that tune in 4 notes. Dream Baby. And so I just loved his voice, and then when he came in, it sounded like something Roy Orbison would sing, and we had a song called Beyond the End, which is more of an anthem thing. And Will was working with Roy, and I said, well, I'd been talking to him, we'd been talking about doing some writing, and I asked him if he'd come in and sing, and he said, sure. And I went, wow. So when he came in and he just got out there. I don't think he'd ever really had anybody just let him sing. I think that all the producers had told him how to sing, so I just said, go in and sing this. And at the beginning, he got a little nervous because he'd never been in that, and I realized he'd never been in that situation before. And they said, well, just go in and sing. And then he got into it, and he just does a beautiful job on it. I wait for the record, and I say, guess who that is? Boy, people, if they don't know, they know that voice. And it's great because they've recognized it. They give it that, wait a minute, I've heard this before. So he's just a pure delight. I mean, he's a legend, a living legend.
He's such a classic. He's fabulous.
Yeah.
Who else would you like to work with? If you had a wish list.
Wish list to work with? God, who's left? Who's still alive? Oh, I'd have always loved to work with the Beatles. I'd like to work with, God, I'd like to work with Paul McCartney. There's always been some tendencies here and there. I'd like to work, getting ready to do a little bit of work with Ralph McDonald. And I just like, there's certain people that are sort of like heroes. The ones I tell you who I don't want to work with anymore, I mean, that list would be huge. It's hard, the longer you stay in this, it's like, it really is the challenges, and you find people that are sort of getting in at your same level, and usually people that you want to work with, if your personalities are compatible, what goes around comes around, and it's a great thrill when you get to meet your heroes and work with them. I'm looking forward to working with James Taylor again. We worked, and he's an old friend, and we worked very briefly on a song for his album a couple albums back. We're going to do some work. So it's really nice to get to work with friends that you have a lot of mutual interest and respect for. And it's great to be able to put in that position and say, maybe one of these days I'll get to do that. It's fun.
You and Glenn Fry old friends? Is that how the collaboration comes there?
Yeah, I did. He and I go way back. Yeah, he's my neighbor in Colorado for a while. Now he's being a movie star.
His career has had a real resurgence. That's great.
Well, we're still around, you know. There's some great. We lived through it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a test of true talent.
Well, thanks. I mean, it is. It's still fun. I mean, it's a great. You know, playing music was something that, boy, once I had a taste of it, I didn't want to let go. And I was hoping I could do it. So, 20 years later, it's still, I'm having as much fun as I ever did.
Do you think it has anything to do with when you set out, you didn't set out to be a star, you set out to be a musician?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was too busy trying to make a living to realize I'd become a star. And, you know, I had to be told certain things, like, you know, I was in England working on a film, and I heard Come Monday, which was the first hit I had, come over the radio. I was buying a pair of socks. I said, hell, I better call home. Something's happening. So we were really working as a matter of survival. So, and I think that goes back to, like I said again, which was part of a Southern heritage. The way I had to start out in those days was you had to make sure, prove yourself to be good enough to get a job in a bar. And from there, the next step up was a bigger club. So you had to be really a hardworking and proven and good to get to first base, little tiny first base. Not even think about getting to a record. It was a gradual escalation of levels, which I think was essential to that kind of performing, which sort of adds to longevity.
I just read an interview with Mark Knopfler where he was saying that he wanted to drop dead on the stage playing in a small bar. I mean, that, you know, that's just it. He said this arena stuff
I've almost done that. But I can't tell you about that till the book comes out.
Oh, okay. And then the major motion picture.
Let me tell you what, Mark, you don't want to drop dead on the stage. The beach, maybe. Yeah.
He was talking about playing arenas was fine, but he misses playing bars.
Yeah, bars are where, I mean, I go always back and play bars now and just go in with my guitar. I've done it before, and I go on the road, just driving in Florida if I go up, unannounced, to walk in and play. If you have a love for that, where it comes from, there's nothing like bar playing. We went in and played, and I'll take the band in and play little bars, because that's where, you know, you got to love it, and fortunately you can look back, because at the times they were happening when you had to play behind chicken wire, and you had, you know, it was not funny at the time, but now they're great stories. You know, I remember the first chicken wire in closed bandstand I ever played. I said, "What's this for?" And the guy said, "You'll find out." But it's, you know, that's where you cut your teeth, and if you're worth your salt, then I think that's who will be around. I look at now and just see any bar players usually are the players that survive. I mean, if it comes out of something other than that, tendency just to me seems to be falling by the wayside. But good players that can go in and get up in any band, in any bar, that's where it's at.
It seems to me, Jimmy, like it would be very tough for the kids today, starting out. Because the first thing they have to think about is the video.
Video, yeah.
It seems like they don't have a chance. You've got to get it right the first time, or you're out of there, or you're out of the ball game.
I wouldn't want to be out there trying to make it, you know, because unfortunately, I mean, video has a great attraction, but it should still go in here first to me, and not here. And then, as a 50-50 combination, it could be good, but I think there's a lot of talented people that I see that get completely passed over because of the way trends are, you know. And it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have a slot on the radio. You should be put on the radio because of the music and because it makes people feel good. And I see it coming back to that. I see, you know, in our particular situation, the demographics of our crowds are growing huge between 16 and 20. We've got our diehard parrot head Jimmy Buffett fans, but our audience are getting bigger, and we break attendance records every year. And the audience is 16 to 20, so they're coming back to having a good time and listening to music, and that's good overall for the health of people trying to make it with their talent. I have a feeling there's a lot of talented people that are passed over, and that shouldn't be.
There's also a lot of untalented people who are getting a lot of recognition.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. A lot of people shouldn't be signed to record labels if they hadn't had a video. I'm for Battle of the Bands. Let's get up there and do it. Give me a Battle of the Bands. Hell, they did it with wrestling. Let's go. I'll go one-on-one with anybody.
It's a great idea.
I mean, I just used to have to play those. That's what made you good. You know, and you had your 15 minutes, or when you better be good. You know, and it was a great challenge. You know. So I think we ought to have major Battle of the Bands, you know. It'd be a good, interesting thing. You guys ought to start one up. We'll enter.
Okay. Let's talk just a little bit about the calypso and reggae influence in your music. How did that come about?
Oh, it's
Who
just
do you listen
wonderful.
to?
I listen to I spent a lot of time in Jamaica a long time before Calypso, before reggae ever got back up here. Calypso, more or less, Calypso's more of a happier music, and living in the islands the way I do, I think people get a misconception. There's so many different forms of island music. There's great drummers from Haiti and steel drummers from Trinidad, and Calypso from the Bahamas and reggae. And I love that music because it's so absolutely unaffected by it's a total reflection of what's going on. And I listen to the radio station. I love turning the radio on in St. Bart's because it's an island and you hear, because of the radio waves, you hear every language and every kind. I just spin it. And you listen to the songs and what people are writing about, and it's what's happening day to day in their lives. And I'm a great lover of Latin and Caribbean percussion. And it's some kind of way that, because I think of the New Orleans influence, that it all came from Africa through the Caribbean up to New Orleans and into Brazil. So it goes right back to the heart of Africa and the Burundis. Anything that, if you love a beat, that's why I love Caribbean music. I took, for example, we did an album called One Particular Harbor. And I have a great steel drummer in my band named Robert Greenwich from Trinidad. And I loved the harmonies that I'd spent time in Tahiti over there, and I loved the way the Polynesians did different harmonies. So and they'd never heard steel drums, so I recorded the steel drums on this one song. I exclusively wrote it to combine Polynesian harmonies with the Trinidad steel drums. And I took the tracks over and got a Mormon Tahitian choir of these women above a soap factory, because they had to stop the soap factory so that we could do the recording, and let them sing to this track. And I watched them when they heard those drums. And these people had no idea where they came from, but it was an instant love and recognition of it. So it's something about islands and percussion that, if you're a lover of it, that's why even if it's just going on a cruise ship and hearing somebody do the Banana Boat song, it takes you away. And we're really getting more into that these days. I spent time in Brazil last year, and I've done some writing down there with some people. And it's just, that's where I just love, that's where my heart lies. There's a never-ending process of islands. And island people, because they were so isolated for so long, music was a very important part of their lives, and it still shows.
Do you, in spending time in New York and walking down the street of New York, do you ever get any inspiration from here?
Oh, you bet. But a lot of other people have got the New York song market cornered, You got Hall & Oates and Billy Joel and all these people that live here, Who's going to listen to Jimmy Buffett sing about New York? I can sing about some great restaurants I know. And some great times. Oh, you bet. It's a great, I enjoy being able to do that, to spend some time in New York, because it is still, after all, it is an island. It's a big one, and a lot of people on this island, but I think of it in those terms, and I look at neighborhoods and things like that. So it's completely the craziest island I've ever been on. And to take those experiences and take them back, it's a great bounce-off effect. Oh yeah, I love working here.
How do you want to be remembered, Jimmy?
Oh God. I think somebody asked me that once, and I said, well, when you die, what do you want on your tombstone? I said, well, now y'all can get some rest. But I just want to be remembered for having maybe been a clever songwriter and making day-to-day existence in the 20th and hopefully 21st century a little bit easier by keeping people's ability to laugh at themselves and to escape a little bit, because I think it's necessary. If I can be remembered for that, I'll think I did my job well.
I think you've done a good job of it. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pat. All right, pleasure.
Thank you.